What does it mean to you to be the television voice of the team you grew up watching?
I have to pinch myself. I can't believe it's really happening, Frank. This is a dream come true. I mean, 32 years ago, I was offered this job and couldn't take it for myriad reasons, and made my way to Seattle and Chicago and back to Atlanta, where I got to work with my dad. But to come home and follow and cover the team that I fell in love with the sport with in the first place is remarkable. I mean, St. Louis runs in my blood. I was born there. I was raised there, went to high school there. My mom still lives out in Franklin County. The old saying, you can leave St. Louis, but you can't take St. Louis out of the guy. I always felt comfortable coming back to Busch Stadium and seeing those pictures of my grandfather and Jack Buck and Dizzy Dean. It just felt like it was home, and it was meant to. Here we are, and off we go in this exciting new chapter after 2 decades in Atlanta.
It's not like this is your first rodeo, national broadcaster, Cubs, Braves, but there is something different about being the television voice of the Cardinals in this town.
It's the gold standard job in the game, right? Best fans in baseball, baseball heaven, tremendous teams year after year, a tradition of excellence in that broadcast booth. And that's what's so humbling to me, Frank, is when you think about the guys that have sat in that chair, recent vintage, Danny Mack, Joe Buck, George Grant, then Jack Buck, Joe Garagiola, my grandfather, to be even thought of as being worthy of being in that remarkably exclusive fraternity. And look, Jay Randolph, Ron Jacoba, there's a couple more names. I mean, they just keep popping into my head. To be thought of in that same vein and to be thought of worthy of joining that kind of fraternity is really humbling, really exciting. And I can't wait to get started.
So you're also very good friends with Dan McLaughlin, who we're all rooting for. How difficult was this and your conversations with Dan, either during the process or any type of connection?
It's hard. Dan is one of my dearest friends. We talk to each other almost every day during the COVID season. We have so much alike. We're St. Louis natives. We both have 4 kids. We both love baseball. We both love what we do. We both work very hard at what we do, and we try to do everything we can for the fans. And as excited as I am for this opportunity for me personally, and that sounds selfish, the circumstances under which this opportunity came about are awful. I feel terrible for Dan, but I know he's going to be okay. Dan is too good a person, too good of a husband, father, member of the community. He's done so much for charity, as you know, fantastic ambassador for the Cardinals. There's not a doubt in my mind that Dan McLaughlin is going to be back. I'm going to do everything I can to help him in that regard. And when that happens, I can't wait to give that guy a great big hug because he deserves it. And I know he's going to come out of this a better person in a better place. And our sport, our industry, and baseball will be all the better for that.
Your last name, of course, is legendary in broadcasting, but you can't get by for as long as you have because of your last name. You had to have great talent. But I'm wondering, what did you take from your grandfather? What did you take from your father?
The standard line is, Frank, number one, I'm a lousy singer, just like Harry. And number two, after a big win, I'm not afraid to go have an adult soda pop, as I think somebody in St. Louis used to call them. But they both like to have fun. They both told the truth. That was the most important thing. Number one, tell the truth. Number two, be yourself. There's never going to be another Harry Carey, a Jack Buck, or Joe Garagiola. You've got to do it yourself. This is a personality-driven business, and you've got to be yourself. And I think one thing that's really solidified my career in Atlanta and the Cubs is, like me or hate me, you know what I am. And I'm a very genuine, open person, and I'm very much my own person. But I like to have a great time. I love the history of the game. I love the pageantry of the fans. I love seeing the excitement of generational baseball because that's critically important to me. I've got twins that are doing what I do. I have a 14-year-old that would like to do what I do if he can't play. And that's really, really important to me, not just to hold the torch, but keep it lit so that I can hand it off to the next generation of not only Carey broadcasters, but people that love the sport like I do.
And what were you like at night? Did you have the transistor on, listen to Cardinal baseball?
Yeah, my mom used to buy me batteries for my birthday and Christmas because I'd wear out the AM transistor radio. Yeah, I had the single earpiece under my pillow, listen to the Cardinals on the West Coast. And I try to get to the Braves games too, because both KMOX and WSB had such strong radio signals, I could actually hear them both on a clear night. And that's how I learned how to do the craft, so to speak. That's how I learned the artistic nature of calling baseball. It truly was theater of the mind. And when Jack Buck and Mike Shannon and Bob Starr on the Cardinals side, and my dad and Ernie Johnson and Pete Van Wieren would fill the airways, you thought about wow, how great is this? These guys get to talk about something they love to do every day, and they're not digging a ditch or re-roofing an apartment complex to make their way through life. It was a dream come true to be able to follow in those footsteps. And as I've said so many times, Frank, I'm one of many who stand on the shoulders of giants, and all of those guys are the giants in our industry. And I'm just really, really grateful for all the input they provided me.
All right, before we let you go, we have this thing called hit and run, no hedging questions. Okay.
Okay,
Here we go. Favorite all-time Cardinal?
Oh, favorite about Ted Simmons. That was my guy. I was a catcher. I had long hair. He could switch hit. I couldn't hit at all, but he was my all-time favorite Cardinal. A Hall of Famer, Ted Simmons.
Best single moment in a booth for you ever?
Oh boy, single moment. I don't know if I can narrow it to one. I'll give you a handful. Ozzy Osbourne singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Jack Buck doing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Wrigley Field when Joe was there. And thirdly, when my father sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" in Chicago a couple of years after Harry died. That was really emotional for all of us and a moment I'll never forget.
Most embarrassing moment ever for you in the booth?
Oh, gosh. I think when Sarah, the Duchess of York, came to Wrigley again to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and I tried to set her up on a date with Steve Stone, she was more interested in going out with Mark McGuire that night. So Steve struck out for the first and only time in his career.
At what age did you know this was going to be your profession?
I was 18 years old. I was coming home from a Braves game with my dad. Bob Watson in 1982 or 83 came off the bench and did a pinch hit grand slam off Steve Howe in the bottom of the ninth inning at Fulton County Stadium. They played my dad's radio call on the drive home on WSB at midnight. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I said, "I'd like to do that someday, Dad." We drove home silently for the next 45 minutes, got to his house, had some food. He said, "Were you serious about what you said in the car?" I said, "Yes, I was." He said, "We start tomorrow." And I got an internship with WTBS as a camera puller and cable puller with Bob Wussler, who founded CBS News. He was the guy at TBS, and that's where it all began for me in the early 80s.
Great story. Proudest athletic achievement for you? What could you do?
Nothing. That's why I sit behind the microphone. I was a little league kid who loved the game, dreamed of playing, but once they started curving the baseball, I knew I had no chance. I was unfortunately a rather large-boned young man. When I was 10 years old, I had to play football with the 13 and 14-year-olds. I found out pretty quickly that getting my brains beaten in wasn't going to be a whole lot of fun. So I'm one of many parents who lives vicariously through their children. My 14-year-old son, Tristan's a really good athlete. My son, Stefan, played collegiate lacrosse. And my oldest twin, Christopher, was a terrific soccer player in high school. So I'll let them be the athletes. I'm just the dumb old guy that says ball too.
Favorite St. Louis restaurant?
Oh, my God. Cunetto's. I love Cunetto's on the Hill. Tony's is fantastic. When I was a kid, we used to go to El Pagliacci's pizza place. That was, I think, at Manchester Road and 141. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been back in a long time. My uncle and aunt and grandmother used to go to Chris's in Kirkwood, I believe it is. Schneidhorst was another great one. And I was a dishwasher at Rich and Charlie. So all of them. I remember them all, and my waistline reminds me every single time I look in the mirror.
Final thought. I asked you this on television. I'm on the radio side. What do you think your grandfather and your father are saying in heaven about this news?
Well, I hope they're saying, well, it took you long enough to figure this out. I am a slow learner. My wife will tell you that. I just hope they're proud. Frank, I'm so grateful to my dad and grandfather. I didn't know Harry all that well. Many know that story. I didn't really get to know my father until I was an adult and a father of myself. To go back to Atlanta and spend time with him as his son is the greatest gift I ever had, and I don't regret that for a moment. I just hope they're proud of me that I found the strength to do it my way, like Joe Buck, like Tom Brenneman, like Kenny Albert. There's a lot of pressure with the last name thing, but as you kindly said at the start of this, I've kind of made my way, and I've had a lot of help along the way and a lot of guidance and a lot of input from a lot of fantastic people. But I think they would say, "Kid, you're doing okay, and make us proud," and I hope I will.